So I think I'm actually living the dream, to be honest. And the reason I say that is software is always my passion.
This is Namasivayam.
I used to work in oil and gas and manufacturing, and I was the only one who understood software really, really well. So I was like the unicorn there. Okay, here is this guy who's coming in with the software, building all these dashboards for people to make their works better. So that kind of fueled my thing about, okay, there is a need for software in every different single places that is possible.
Nowadays, he's the Senior Director of Engineering Productivity at Dropbox, which basically means ensuring that the people who build Dropbox have the right tools to do their jobs.
That is another reason why I feel like it's the best job that I can have. It's kind of the intersection of reinventing software engineering to do the best thing possible with agentic workflows right now.
But just as important as having the right tools is figuring out which tools they'll need next.
2025 AI was more of a productivity tool where it was helping me build code faster. 2026 and 2027 and beyond, it's going to be a complete transformation of how workflows are getting done. So the team is very much focused on how we make sure every engineer in the company right now is actually using AI responsibly and also making their best possible work in the company right now through use of AI.
I'm Matthew Braga, and this is Working Smarter, a podcast from Dropbox about how AI is changing the way we work and get stuff done. So in each episode this season, we've been talking to people at Dropbox about how you build AI that is actually useful and works across all your content and tools. We started with context, so all the engineering involved in understanding where you do your work and who you work with and what work matters to you. From there, we dug into chat and search and how you can find things within a video or an audio file by just searching the way you think. And of course, you can't talk about AI without talking about the importance of security, both when building and using these tools. But on today's episode, we're getting a little meta.
The world around us is moving really, really fast. What was hype today becomes reality in a week. And then there's another hype that starts again, right? So you need to be really, really ahead of the curve in understanding what's happening in the market.
And talking to Dropboxers about how they use AI to build AI.
You kind of give the plan to the AI, and the agents can orchestrate themselves to go and actually solve for these problems and eventually come to you with a final result.
Many engineers have had that aha moment where something that was not possible before is actually working, right? Like it actually gives you something, one shot, you get an output which you could not get before.
That's Anuradha Agarwal, a director of software engineering, also on the developer productivity team. And together, Uma and Anuradha have been helping Dropboxers reduce friction, move faster, and have more impact with the help of cutting-edge agentic AI tools, including some stuff they built in-house.
We want to move with speed. That is going to be the key. Speed is going to be the essence here, right? The ultimate goal that we want to go after is, can we actually ship products faster to our customer? And Nova is a platform that we're actually building internally, which can automate a lot of things that developers are doing.
Given how much code is being produced, the job is changing from writing code to reviewing code. So that is definitely a bottleneck, and this is something we are actually actively working on.
In other words, AI isn't just transforming the way we work, but also the way we write the software that people use for work. So what does that transformation look like at Dropbox? That's coming up next on this episode of Working Smarter.
So if you think about software engineering and how a developer is actually using the tools today, think of it as like an orchestration of a symphony. Right now, the AI is getting used across the board in a different fashion, but there's a spectrum of it. There's a world where AI is getting assisted, which means that as a developer, I'm actually guiding AI on what to do. That is one level of depth. It starts with doing like actual writing of the code. They have Claude Code, they have Cursor, they have GitHub Copilot, they have Codex, they have ChatGPT. Then there is also agentic world, which can actually automate a lot of things that developers are doing. Currently, we do an audit of what are all the steps the developer have to do. So there is a 35 steps right now, almost close to. And where Dropbox is at today right now, at high level, 6 of the 35 steps I would call it as like AI assisted / automated right now. And then we have close to 10 different POCs going on the different steps where we can get towards an AI assisted / automated world in the next 3 to 6 months.
Okay. Where are you finding the most friction right now within the software development lifecycle that these tools are helping you solve?
The code development or code generation is the kind of a solved problem. It actually does a pretty good job of getting from A to B really well. What's happening right now in the industry is since the number of PRs, which is basically pull requests that engineers are actually doing, has gone up significantly, the time it takes for a developer to review the code is actually going up. Okay, that's where I think a lot of bottleneck is happening. And that's where Nova comes in. And Nova is a platform that we're actually building internally. Think of Nova as kind of your AI buddy, what we would call, where it has all context of Dropbox code base, connects to all the Dropbox systems in all one go, and I can give a set of tasks for it to execute on it. It's kind of a foundation layer that helps get agents in our SDLC as fast as possible. Any engineering company that you go to, right, like that has been here for, let's say, for multiple years, they will have acquired a set of tools that they've built over a period of time. That could be internal tools, that could be tools that we've bought in the past. So let's say, for example, we use BuildKite for our build management. When we use something called BuildBond for remote execution, these are like standardized tools in the world, but these are what Dropbox has integrated. And then you have a system called Changes, which is where all our Changes infrastructure is running on. That's kind of custom built, but also like adheres to most of the philosophies of engineering here. So you have all these different tools from Dropbox, right? And Nova, by default, understands these things because we have what we call the MCP servers for these different things. And it also integrates into this. If you bring it all together, Nova has context on what needs to happen on Dropbox. It becomes like an engine that understands the entire code base. It understands how the integrations are happening. It understands all the skills that you have. It can do a lot of repetitive tasks that the people want to do.
Before, you had mentioned this difference between AI-assisted engineering and then agentic engineering.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the transition between those things? Like, what is the difference and why are we going from one to the next?
In the spectrum of AI-assisted versus agentic, AI-assisted means human is always in the control. It still helps you move faster because you are not actually writing the code or doing the activities. AI is doing a lot of things for you. But in terms of agentic, it is actually one step removed where you actually bring the broader picture. You kind of give the plan to the AI. Here is where I want to go from A to B. You tell me what are the plan and steps that need to happen. And the agents can orchestrate themselves to go and actually solve for these problems and eventually come to you with the final result. So it's almost like doing a little bit higher level. And it also lets you do a lot of things parallelly. And that's where you get the advantage of being actually agentic, where you take one plan and maybe have multiple different machines running multiple different plans, and you just get the amount of parallelization happening. That's when you get more productivity. And that's the direction the industry is going, and that's where Dropbox also wants to go in the future.
Is this where Nova comes into the picture?
Exactly. So I'll give you an example, right? Like Dropbox has a code base that is almost 10 years old. You have what we call tech debt, which basically means you have older way of doing things, older systems and whatnot. Migrations becomes a very, very important piece of the puzzle for us to keep on the cutting edge of technology right now. Let's say we want to move upgrading certain packages from A to B. Okay. So the way it was done in the past was you create Jira tickets, you understand all the different packages that needs to be upgraded, and then a developer has to find time, go look at it and upgrade it manually. What Nova can do today is once, let's say, an engineer understands the recipe of how to do the migration, if he writes the MD file for it, then he can farm it out to Nova, where basically they are giving all these MD files to Nova, and that does the package upgrade on its own. Ultimately, the developer has to sign off on it because it's not going to be, the human has to be in the loop. But Nova will actually do the dirty task for you, right? Where it understands the MD file, it looks at different packages and it gets it done. So that's one area where it's helping really, really well, and it's going really well on the migration side. The second one is also, which is favorite for me, which is what we call as a deflaker. Every set of PRs have to go through a set of tests. And tests also can flake, which means it can have false positives or negatives in that sense, right? What would happen in the past is some people would actually like quarantine these tests because they didn't have the time to actually go investigate the tests right now. Where Nova can help is in our flake management system, we now have a way for it to actually like pass all the information of where the tests are failing, what are the logs that it has, and Nova can actually like take it from there and come back to us and say that, hey, these are the reasons why the test is failing. Here is a fix for it. It works 75% of the time, which means it's actually pretty good compared to where it was before. Sure, the 25% of the time developers have to go look at what it is, but it does a lot of legwork for you. And that is how actually Nova is actually pushing the boundary for us right now.
So this is something that we have chosen to build in-house. And I'm wondering if you can tell me a little bit more about that decision? Like, why not go with something off the shelf here? Like what is it about Dropbox that makes?
I mean, you talk exactly like my TL right now, so that is amazing. You are pushing me on the direction, so that's great. So the build versus buy decision are always going to be complex. We want to move with speed. That is going to be the key. Speed is going to be the essence here, right? We have a way for us to orchestrate a lot of these things because Dropbox infra is also one of our strengths. So the way we are thinking about Nova is let's actually build the minimum value product right now and consistently evaluate like what the tools are also doing in the market. So the way we are decoupling the not getting attached to Nova is we are building the integration layer that is anyways going to be needed for third-party tools. So that is like not throwaway work. The UI aspect of it and like orchestration aspect of it could be actually throwaway work, but that is fine. There's an okay trade-off. A lot of times what happens is like when you go to a vendor, they come to you saying that, hey, we have this amazing AI tool that can do wonders for you, and we engage with them. But the moment they start integrating with Dropbox, because we have this big mono repo that we live on, a lot of tools actually fail. They don't scale, the costs are too high, or the speed is not there. So a lot of these functions actually fail. And that's why a bunch of tools that we did POCs on, there is a graveyard of them that we cannot go forward with. Mm-hmm. So that is also another reason why we wanted to move fast with what we know of, and then eventually switch to whatever tools that actually make sense in the industry.
What kind of impact do you want to see at Dropbox from developers using these kinds of tools in their workflows?
Yeah, so I'll answer it in two different ways. First one, the impact of AI tools and the impact of AI is not a solved problem in the industry. When you talk to our peers, when you talk to the industry right now, there is just a ton of different metrics people look at, but how do you tie it back to the business impact is still unsolvable right now. It is still a very, very nascent space. Having said that, like we want to take a very, very measured approach in terms of how we want to think about measuring the impact of productivity. But the ultimate goal that we want to go after is, can we actually ship products faster to our customer? So that is the key metric that we want to actually line on. The second, from an engineering standpoint, are they able to like innovate and actually like ship products the way they wanted to ship in a faster way or not? So that is also another angle that we look at. Well, as a developer experience, as they improve, do they want to come to work for Dropbox because this is where agentic workflows are done and I'm actually doing the best part of the job in their life here? So that is how we are thinking about measuring impact for the company. Mm-hmm. So there's a business impact angle and there's also a developer experience impact of the angle. Then we look at when we measure AI here.
Are there certain areas where you've been seeing, I guess, movement or improvement, or like where have the signs been most encouraging so far?
So if I just take a step back and if I look at just actual system metrics, since January 2025 versus now, it's almost 2x across the board. And this includes all the different organizations in their company. And that's a huge win. The second one is what we call as a cycle time. So this is pretty much the time it takes when the PR is actually ready for review till the times gets merged. That's also gone down dramatically, 60% reduction when we started versus now. The third one, which is also not shown in the metrics, but is important to also highlight here is as the throughput actually goes up, your capacity is also unlocked. Like as a developer, you can do more with less in a way, right? Mm-hmm. And what we are also seeing is developers are doing the right thing. They are actually looking at, okay, here is all the backlog that has been there for quite some time. Let me go solve for it. So tech debt tickets have actually gone up. People are actually solving for things that we would not have solved in the past just because we have AI, which is also doing the right thing because eventually quality will actually improve by fixing all these things.
Okay. What is the difference in your view between using AI as a productivity tool versus something that like is actually transformative for people's workflows?
Especially for engineering, I think the signs are pointing towards where AI will probably transform how work gets done. Mm-hmm. It is not going to be like a productivity tool. It is basically revamping how even like your workflows are getting done. I would say if you ask me 2025, it was more of a productivity tool where it was helping me build code faster. 2026 and 2027 and beyond, it's going to be a complete transformation of how workflows are getting done. One thing that is it's actually going to be a huge stretch and a huge ambitious challenge that we are taking after is we want to make the SDLC agentic by end of this year. And that means that every repetitive task that a developer does today, we want to make sure there is some form of agentic workflow there, like depending on different spectrum we are. If you think about 35 steps that I talked about, right? We are only at 6 or 7 right now. The rest will take a lot of time, rest will take a lot of investments, but we want to push through this with AI. We want to push through this with like also refocusing our roadmap towards that. If you're able to achieve that, to me, that is actually a big win. And what it also help you do is you can ship faster, quality is also secured, security is also secured. So getting to that place and having the confidence to get there will be a huge monumental effort, but that is what I'm excited about to make that challenge happen.
There's obviously still a lot of stuff to figure out here, and so I was curious to hear from Anuradha Agarwal about what they've learned so far, about how all of this works in practice, and how the work of building software has changed.
I'm Anuradha, and I'm an engineering director for the Developer Infrastructure Organization. What that means is my team is responsible for ensuring all engineers at Dropbox can ship code reliably and with high velocity. When we started out, we built Nova not for like every engineer to sit down and use it. It was a platform to make our SDLC more AI assisted, and there was nothing quite out there, and it made sense for us to build it. But what happened along the way is we did give it a UI because it was like, okay, what happens? It fails. So if it fails, then you want to interact with it. And so then it got a UI, and we kept growing it in that direction. But it was mostly from the intent of people who are building those agents. And now, because it is a cloud-based coding platform, we are seeing a lot of people actually using it for small little tasks, which does not require them to have a local setup. So it's like cloud-based, and you can just throw tasks in parallel and also keep doing something where you're heavily engaged with the system. There are not quite a lot of external solutions like this, which lets you do these type of things. So it already has access to our code base. It comes already ready to talk to our monorepo.
Mm-hmm.
It understands how to do builds. You can choose the coding agent. You can choose the model. And the fact that you can run it on our on-prem hardware is also a pretty cool thing. A lot of people are engaging with it. They are liking it. We have feature requests coming in like every day, and we just can't keep up at this point. So it is actually solving the needs of every developer. But I think the main motivation came from making our SDLC agentic. That was kind of where we started this journey.
You mentioned that people have actually started using it for these small side tasks. What sort of tasks are we talking about?
It could be like a bug that you want to fix, a refactor that you wanted to do. So those are small tasks which any engineer is doing. But then there are also some bigger agentic solutions that we are working on. There is a migration tool that is being worked on right now.
Mm-hmm.
There is a test debugger where like if a playwright test fails, then how do you know why it failed? And these are generally toilsome and difficult to debug. So those are two very recent examples of things that are being built on top of Nova.
We've been talking a little bit about this transition from AI-assisted engineering to more of an agentic engineering way of working. And I'm wondering, what have been some of the biggest surprises to you or things that you've kind of noticed as we've moved into this kind of current era and this way of working?
Many engineers have had that aha moment where something that was not possible before is actually working, right? Like it actually gives you something, one shot, you get an output which you could not get before. I think basically this year, whether it be adoption or the quality of the kind of things people are being able to do has really gone up significantly.
Maybe you can tell me a little bit about the approach that you're taking to keeping the quality of the output you're getting from Nova and the agents high when people are assigning these kind of small tasks or large tasks. I mean, this might be a bit of an obvious question, but like why is that important?
Of course, the main reason for quality is always because we need to not lose the trust of our customer.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to ensure that we validate everything and we have high quality bars. So the important thing is we don't even create like a pull request. We basically create a branch, and we want the human to basically create the PR so that it's clear that they are taking ownership. So that is like the human is still responsible for the quality.
Yeah.
So that is like P0.
Okay.
These tools are probabilistic, which means they hallucinate. They sometimes don't have the right context. A natural language is still not very specific. So often it can go in the wrong direction, or the subtle bugs are the hardest ones, right? Where it looks right, but it's actually not right. So that is why the human comes in there and needs to validate and verify that, like, hey, this is actually correct. Which is why tests are there for those reasons. But then in addition to tests, like the humans can often understand, like, hey, why did you even do this, right? Like you can do this in a much, much more cleaner way. So all of that together ensures that quality is not compromised while we are gaining this velocity.
As these tools get better and we're finding more ways to apply them successfully, where are the bottlenecks shifting? Like where are the bottlenecks now?
given how much code is being produced, the job is changing from writing code to reviewing code. So that is definitely a bottleneck, and this is something we are actually actively working on to get a handle on. The other is we are already actually seeing 2x more builds, in some cases even 4x more builds, depending on which part of the organization. There's a lot more happening. And all of this means that the foundational systems that build and test, they need to keep up with the load and they don't fall apart. So again, that's a big focus for us right now to make sure we can really be ready when the floodgates open.
We've been talking a little bit about some of these areas of friction and ways in which we're trying to reduce toil, but even just thinking sort of this bigger picture on like what we're building and how we're building it and the impact for customers. Like what do you want the end result to be?
From a customer point of view, hopefully we are going to make them more happy by fixing all of their issues much faster.
Mm-hmm.
On their customer service, we can actually be providing much better customer service there. From an engineer's point of view, whose job is changing, hopefully they are being able to kind of spend more time doing more interesting work and more impactful work by up-leveling there. The job is now going to be, what systems can I design? What products can I design that will help my customer? So you're thinking in a different lens versus like, hey, how do I write that code? We have a manager who's right now upgrading a lot of packages. These are security vulnerabilities, and we've never had capacity to allocate for these, or these often go to the back burner.
Yeah.
And he's just having fun upgrading them using AI. And this job is no longer now on another engineer's plate. A lot of that backlog would have existed, and he's just powering through it, and he's upgraded 200 packages in a matter of a couple of months. And
that's impactful.
That's exciting, yeah. And again, like I'm part of the CTO organization. We work on a lot of migrations, and then we have to depend on product teams to do their part of the migration. And it's just always like, hey, can you do this? Can you do this? And they're like, no, I have all these other things to do, so I'm sorry, I cannot do it. I feel, and I hope that we reach a world where we don't need to do that. That work will be what AI can totally take over. Once we break it down and give it to an agent and they can power through it, that would be really sweet.
It sort of sounds like you're describing a world as well in which we're able to break down some of these silos between teams by, you're no longer having to like wait on somebody else to do that migration.
Exactly.
You can say like, hey, why don't I use AI to help you do this?
Exactly.
And it helps us both. Is that correct?
That is right. That is right. And I think some of these projects, that's why they will move much faster and people will be happier because they don't have to constantly negotiate priorities. And like for a product team, they can now focus more on the product work. And platform teams can actually like make more progress on all of these upgrades and migrations and such things, which used to take much longer before.
So you have all these tools, both kind of stuff that we're building in-house, stuff that's third party that we're bringing in. How are you measuring how people are using these tools to make sure that they're being used the most effectively, that they're getting the results that we want, and that, people are also enjoying using them? I imagine that's a factor as well.
So we have multiple ways to measure things. We are seeing like a dramatic increase in throughput.
Sure.
So that's one measurement. On the throughput velocity, there are certain metrics, but then on the quality side, are we seeing more SEBs because, in this period that we are seeing a large usage of AI? Are we seeing a lot of code being reverted? So those are certain measures of quality, right? Like, so that way you're balancing not just velocity, but also quality. So those are some of the metrics. But the impact piece is the more interesting one because, we have more output. What does that mean for our customers,
yes.
right? Because, or revenue or whatever, which is a much, like developer productivity, that's why it's always an interesting space. Like how do you measure impact of a developer? And that is not a new question, to be honest. AI is a new tool in our toolbox. But the question remains the same, is like, how do you measure productivity of a developer?
This is a bit of another maybe bigger picture question, and I'm going to take a little bit of a step back. But why does this work matter to you?
I like solving problems, to be honest. Like we are seeing all these people engage and we are able to help them move fast, make them happier. That is what keeps me going. The world is changing and especially the this area is changing significantly. So it's kind of an interesting time to understand the technology and what we can build with it. How can we use it to make the lives of our customers better? That's kind of what's exciting. We have customers who are at different places of how they think about these tools and the new technology, and it is hard because all our roles are changing, and there's a real crisis of sorts for humans at this moment.
Yeah.
And like, hey, what does it mean for me? And there's a real fear there. There's a real anxiety there.
Like, how does it change the way that I work?
Yeah. And what does it mean, right? Like, there's a lot happening in the industry right now. So that is definitely, there's the human side that is hard. And for the skeptics, that 50% of times it doesn't work is like already enough to say, hey, I don't want to use this. So how do you make it actually work as many times as possible? So we've spent a lot of time actually iterating to make them, like, to increase the confidence in and not lose the trust of our developers and our customers. So that's kind of why it's challenging. Even though it's like magical, it doesn't work always. And how do you make sure it actually works? And then how do we bring the humans along in the journey?
When you were talking about the human side a second ago and just sort of people grappling with, like, what does this mean for me? You know, like, what does this mean for the work that I do? Maybe my identity as a software engineer. What do you say in those conversations?
I've been having this conversation a lot recently, and I'm basically asking people to keep that skepticism in them, which is saying like, hey, maybe this doesn't quite work. There are some people who are just like, this AI slop is a real thing, who just will take whatever AI gives and move forward with it. But if you're the skeptic, then you will actually look at it and you will be producing, you will actually ensure that the tool actually generates good results. So which is a good thing. But I'm encouraging people to say, okay, it didn't work for you last week. Have you tried it this week? And keep embracing it. Because if you don't do that, you are going to be left behind. And yes, it doesn't work always. I think it's just acknowledging where it is and encouraging people to embrace this and adapting. So it's just like basically engaging in that conversation and ensuring that people are experimenting and trying. The other thing is just like there's so much hype, so you have to really try to figure out where the hype is and where the reality is and be pragmatic about it. And be honest with like I tell my engineers all the time, like, there is a hype, but then there's also some reality, because now I can show you an example of a peer of yours who has done something which is amazing. How can you not even give this a try? When it becomes more real and closer to you, then it becomes more believable. And that really helps. I don't buy into the hype very easily, but I like to stay close and pay attention so that I'm not completely like unaware. You want to be aware, but not just be on the hype train. That's kind of how I operate. Be skeptical, but give it a try.
There are a lot of AI tools out there, and not all of them are alike, which is why throughout this season, we've wanted to take you under the hood of AI at Dropbox, introduce you to some talented folks, and show you how they've been trying to solve some of the most frustrating problems with modern work. And as you've probably gathered, these aren't easy problems to solve. They span context engineering, chat, and agentic AI. There's multimodal search and, of course, security. But the scope of this challenge is also a reflection of how teams work today. Because when you have AI that actually understands you, that connects to all your work apps and puts everything in one secure place, you can start to move a little faster and focus on the work that matters most to you. That's it for this season of Working Smarter. Thanks for listening. And may you and your team enjoy a smarter way of working. Working Smarter is brought to you by Dropbox. Find, organize, and share your work all in one place with context-aware AI from Dropbox. You can listen to more episodes of Working Smarter on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. And you can also find more interviews like this one on our website, workingsmarter.ai. Working Smarter would not be possible without the talented team at Cosmic Standard, producer Ben Montoya, sound engineer Asia Simpson, technical director Jacob Winnick, and executive producer Eliza Smith. Special thanks to our illustrator, Fannie Lohr, and to Megan Ellingbo for marketing support. Our theme song was composed by Doug Stewart, and I'm your host, Matthew Braga. Thanks for listening.